Don't worry about one if it don't come, as long as you get one of them.
Live on the set.
Live on the set.
3, 2, 1.
All right, I'm going to assume that I'm live. My name is Grayson. Many of you know me as TMOT, the Minister of Truth. I have said early on that I was going to start doing a town hall. And well, we're up, we're running, and we're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Tonight will not be a full run because I just want to get you all acclimated to what it is that we're going to be doing. So you won't see a bunch of post edits or doing the show and then going and cutting it up and coming back and publishing it later. It will be live. You will have the ability to ask questions and I will answer them. But for right now, I just want to get into some issues that have been going on. You all know that I have not been doing drive times as I usually do because I have been sort of breaking back from that so that we could get to this point and start talking about some serious political issues. Not that I don't talk about serious political issues as it is, but in a more systematic format. Weekly, a time that you can count on, where you can come and you can engage me directly. Because the one thing that makes me different from other politicians, I'm not afraid to talk to you. I don't do stump speeches. I don't respond to you with pre-formatted answers. I engage people on a regular basis on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Those of you that know me, you know this to be true. Can you say that about any of the competition? The answer would be no. They just don't do it. So let me talk about a few things before I end this show. I did say that this show will not be a full run. It will be brief, but I want to cover a few things. First, I'm going to give you a few tidbits of information. If you recall Elijah Cummings, God rest his soul, his seat was up and his wife was running for the seat. Well, she lost. A guy by the name of Mfume won that seat. Just want to point that out. Let's talk about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the virtual candidate. And Joe Biden has had a woman to come out. Her name is Tara Reid, I believe, and accused him of rape. Why do we call sexual assault when it's actually a rape? She was raped by Joe Biden. I guess they do that to kind of soften the blow because you know what? Rape is different. Rape is personal. It does something to you psychologically, something that many women never get over. But the interesting part about this, Joe Biden has been silent, and one of his advisors came out and said, Joe, you need to nip this in the bud. You need to answer the questions because they are going in on him. Ms. Reid is cutting him no slack. But consider this, our own, well, not mine, but Georgia's own Stacey Abrams. Now, unlike other candidates, this lady is actively campaigning to be his vice president pick or vice presidential pick. Who does that? Everybody else, they get a tap on the shoulder. Hey, we want you to consider being the running mate, but not Miss Abrams. But here's the funny part. When Judge Kavanaugh, Supreme Court nominee, was being roasted, I mean, they were burning that man at the stake. Stacey Abrams' words were, along with a number of others like Pelosi and Spartacus, she must be believed. You remember that? See, I don't forget these things. I got a mind almost like an elephant. I keep up with this stuff so that once I've got everything laid out, it helps me to keep from making a mistake by assuming somebody is something that they are not when they have shown me exactly what they are. Well, guess what Ms. Abrams said in reference to Joe Biden? I believe him. In other words, to hell with what Ms. Reed said. I'm going to stick with what Joe Biden said. Why? Because she wants that nomination as his VP pick that bad. Another thing that I saw that I found interesting was Mr. P. Diddy himself has basically gone on record and said to the Democrats, our votes are not for free this time around. You got to come with some promises. Well, you can look it up on Instagram if you like and check it out for yourself. I won't get into the whole matter of it, but understand this. Democrats have been making promises to the Negro for the last 60 years. What was it that Malcolm X said? If you continue to support a party that comes around and makes promises to you during the election cycle, I'm paraphrasing, of course, during the election cycle, and then they forget about you after it's done, he said, not only are you a political chump, you're a traitor to your race. Now, this is what he was saying about the Democrat Party. But, you know, be that as it may, I don't understand why people don't understand that. And don't get me wrong, the GOP establishment is no different. They were talking a good game in 2014 about being inclusive because they were being called on the carpet. And I was there. I witnessed them going through the motions of wanting to be inclusive, but I didn't see any of them on the campaign trail in the black neighborhoods with me at some of the forums that I attended. They weren't there. They were a no-show, and they will be a no-show now because the GOP establishment abandoned black people with the Compromise of 1877. Yes, I'm a student of history. Go look it up and see what deal it was that the GOP establishment made after the death of Abraham Lincoln, who was no longer there to ensure that the North and the Union did what they were supposed to do in ensuring that black people were given all of the rights that are promised to every other citizen here in the United States according to our Constitution. And we all know what the preamble says. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, it didn't say some, didn't say half, didn't say tall, short, fat, skinny, small, said all men are created equal. Of course, and we go on with the entitled to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. But enough about that. Let me get to what I want to talk to you about tonight briefly, and then I'm going to end. If I see some questions, I'll answer them. If I don't, I'll just close with this. Corona. Now, I know a lot of people like to say COVID-19. That's fine. I like to say Corona. Understand something. I have been putting information out for the last 6 weeks about this situation. I said this is about one man, our economy, and one election. Defeat one man because we want him gone. We have tried everything that we could. We've tried impeachment. We tried collusion. We tried spying. It all failed. So now we're going to pull out a big gun, and then we're going to use a bullet. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. None of that worked. The economy, what has happened? Our economy is tanking. We have had one of the best economies in recent years because of the things that Donald Trump has put in place. But that is now tanking. And then one election. Lay the blame at his feet and let him be gone. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of what I have shared about COVID, I want to say this. It is hard for me to understand how you can have a group of people so full of hate for somebody that they cannot see the truth, that they ignore the facts. And I'm going to start with black people. Now, you know that Vernon Jones here in Georgia put out a statement, I am leaving the building. I am sick and tired of my family and myself being attacked because I decided to vote for the man that has set black people free, gave us prison reform, who funded HBCUs, who has fought against illegals that come into this country and depress the wages. Why would anyone or an employer, small business, pay somebody $15 an hour if they can go up to the parking lot at Lowe's and hire someone for $5.50 an hour? It's the same logic behind corporations. Why would they pay someone $15 an hour if they can get the sneakers made in China for $2.50 an hour? You need to understand how these things work, and I'm not going to get into all of the history that led us to the point of where China became the backbone of America, because that's what it is, and it was done with the help of U.S. politicians. But getting back to black people, it's hard for me to understand how they can look at these positive things that have happened. The repeal, essentially, of legislation that was put forth by Joe Biden and signed by Bill Clinton that warehoused Negroes in droves. Donald Trump essentially did away with it and started setting people free. Black people, he didn't wait until the end of his term. He did it as soon as he hit the door. He was signing pardons and said, give me a criminal justice reform bill and I will sign it. And I'm going to deal with people coming into this country illegally. I am going to fund HBCUs. I remember in one of his campaign speeches, he said to a group of blacks, what have you got to lose considering all else that has been going on? Give me a chance. Yet blacks will still look at that man and regurgitate the lies and the hate that they get from the public rather than taking time to investigate and see the policies that have been put in place to keep them where they are. They only care about you at the election cycle. And the GOP is no different. They don't reach across the aisle. And you have people in the Republican Party that support what I call rhinos, Republicans in name only. Understand something. The ratio or the divide between the House and the Senate in terms of the two parties is almost half, okay? Almost 50-50, almost. They have their ebb and flows where one will have more than the other and so forth and so on. Understanding that in most cases, it takes 2/3 majority to pass any type of legislation. So when you have a Republican that votes against the Constitution 40% of the time, that means 40% of the time he is voting with the liberal Democrats. And we understand the liberal Democrat Party. It is the party of abortion, where nearly 500,000 black babies are aborted every day through Planned Parenthood, which started out as the Negro Project. That is what it was called, the Negro Project, which was put forth by a woman by the name of Margaret Sanger. And its design was to reduce the population of the Negro. That's that. So the GOP, every time they vote against the Constitution, that means they are voting with Democrats. And if you were to go in and study and look at their constitutional voting record, you will note that Democrats are typically down in the 20% range. That means 80% of the time they are voting against the Constitution. That is why they call them progressives, because they believe that the Constitution is dated and that the Constitution needs to be done away with. Yes, I have heard them say that. Republicans, on the other hand, will pretend that I am a constitutional conservative, all the while sitting with Democrats in the back room making policies that impact you, making policies that take away from your liberties and your freedoms. But yet, the people in the Republican Party, They refuse to investigate their own politicians. Now look, I will make no secret about it. I am not your typical candidate because I tell you the truth. I tell you that I want to see rhinos purged from the Republican Party because they may as well be in the Democrat Party. I want to see the Democrat Party stopped because the Democrat Party supports the taking of lives. The Democrat Party supports many things that are anti-liberty and anti-freedom. Now, I was just told that maybe I need to answer a question. Let's see. See, the screen is so far away. I'm old, all right? I just turned 60. Maybe I need a pair of binoculars. So look, I am not going to worry about those questions because I can't see them. The screen is too far away. You'll have to forgive me. I will go back and circle around, and if I see them and I decide to answer some, if I have the time, I will answer them later on. But getting back to COVID, I know I kind of went all the way around the mountain because I wanted to give you some foundation about who I am as a candidate, in that I hold no allegiance to any party. I am a member of the Republican Party because the Republican Party has not wholesale abandoned God. The Democrats in 2016 had the word God removed from their official platform. That is when I knew there is nothing good about that party that I want to have anything to do with. And when they came up with late-term abortion, I said enough is enough. So now let's get back to COVID. If you have been paying attention, when Corona broke, the first thing that Donald Trump did was to say, I am going to stop people from coming into this country. When that happened, Schumer, Pelosi, the Cuomoian, Cuomo, called the man a racist. Why are you doing this? Well, what have we learned since that time? We were told that the virus started in a wet market, fish market. Well, that's a lie. And China has acknowledged that that's a lie. Well, then, what is the rest of the story? The rest of the story is this. Donald Trump has said in his press briefings, the invisible enemy. Rudy Giuliani tweeted, this is a bio attack, biological weapon. Well, why on earth would China do this? China did this because as soon as Trump took office, he said, China has been stealing from us. China does not trade fairly with us, and I am going to fix it. China has built themselves up off of the backs of Americans. And what you don't understand about that process is this. When George Bush Sr. negotiated NAFTA and Bill Clinton signed it, that was the beginning of the end of the industrial backbone of America. That's when corporations started moving overseas, not because they couldn't find workers here, but because they could make a greater profit. But guess what? At the expense of your jobs. But you didn't see it then, because all the while they were doing it, they were getting rich. And you didn't realize you're losing industry. You're losing jobs. But you know what? Jimmy Carter helped them when he sold the lie in 1979 about the Department of Education. Oh, yes, we want everybody, black, white, green, yellow, purple, to go to college. So we're going to fix it. And you know what? In 1979, I graduated in 78. 1979, when we got the Department of Education, if you're as old as I am, you began to see industry jobs or trade jobs leaving the high schools. Auto mechanics, woodworking, metal shop, all plumbing, HVAC, all of that stuff left the schools. Why? Because then they could say, well, we can't find qualified employees to do the work. So we have to outsource all of this to China. Do you remember when everybody made a run on toilet paper? You want to know why? When Donald Trump said, I'm shutting down people from coming into the country from China, they pulled the ships back. Well, guess what was on those ships? Gloves, masks, toilet paper, all kinds of paper products. You want to know why? Because that stuff is made in China. U.S. politicians made them our backbone. That's where our backbone is. Overseas, in China, in another country. I knocked this mic off, so just bear with me here while I put this back on. That's where all of our jobs went, to China. Now, when Trump gets in office, Trump is determined to set the record straight. And I remember dealing with people wanting to argue, Trump is going to kill this, Trump is going. No, Trump is not trying to destroy trade. Trump is trying to make trade fair and balanced with the wall. Trump is not trying to stop people from coming in the country. Trump wants them to come into the country legally. And I promise you, if you sit down with a reasonable-minded individual and ask them, don't mention Trump's name now, because that will evoke a level of hate that, you would not be able to imagine. But ask the average person, hey, do you think people ought to be able to break the law and come into this country? They're going to say no. Hey, do you think if I'm selling you my goods at one price and you're selling me your goods at a price, do you think that the selling should be balanced and fair? They're going to tell you, yeah, most people would agree with that. But hey, that is not what we see happening. Okay, I got a message here. Who is the name? Okay. I tend to just start talking because I assume everybody knows who I am, but I'm not that famous, so forgive me. My name is Grayson, and I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I'm going to finish here within the next 5 minutes. I promise. But I wanted to give you this background information on what makes me different. One, because I'm going to tell you the truth about both parties. Two, because I understand how we got here. And three, you are the key to change. I shared a chessboard, bunch of fat cats sitting around playing, making chess moves, determining what goes on in your life. And underneath are people bent over underneath the table supporting it. If one or more were to stand up, it would be game over. But we don't stand up because they keep us divided and because they keep us ignorant. Now, getting back to Trump and Corona. So Trump is putting the hammer down on China. China gets upset. They're about to lose their standing. Now, again, I already told you, Trump said we're fighting an invisible enemy. We're at war. Rudy Giuliani said that this is a bio attack. Then Senator Tom Cotton, earlier this week, national TV, but you only heard it on one broadcast. He said quite clearly, this virus did not come from the wet market. This virus was made in a lab. This virus was set free for the sole purpose of China being able to maintain their economic standing that they have established and built up with the help of U.S. politicians. Yes, I'm talking about some of those 535 up there in Washington, D.C. Now, if you think I've got some inside track on information, I don't, but I pay attention. I put things together, and I make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Now, I had all kinds of people sending me nonsense about 5G being the cause of corona. Again, 5G does not make the earth flat. 5G does not cause crotch rot. It will not give you ingrown toenails. 5G is not responsible for baldness, and 5G did not cause corona. So stop it with the nonsense. A guy from France, a French Nobel Prize winner, a doctor, has now come out and made it known. Corona was made in a laboratory. Nobel Prize winner. Okay? The guy has laid it out. So when you have all of these people laying it out on the line, doctors risking their careers to tell you that corona is not what you think it is, that you are being misled, doctors coming out and admitting that the government has been pressuring them to put on the death certificate that a person died from corona if they were positive with it, even though something else caused the death. But you don't hear this in the news. You won't hear it in the media because they want you ignorant. They want you ignorant. They want Trump out of office, even at the cost of your lives. Now I'm going to see if I can see some of these questions. I see, okay, hello, someone else. Tell it like it is, Reb. Hey, I'm doing my best. Hug the Block TV. Yes? Obama, see, they made it illegal in this country to do research on making viruses more lethal. So guess what? They outsourced it to China. They gave that lab, and Trump mentioned it on TV, $3.7 million to further that research. So when, as I was saying earlier about the big gun and the bullet, when spying failed, when impeachment failed, when collusion failed, they took the big gun and that bullet, that virus, and they shot it at America. That's right. They shot it at America. These are facts that are undeniable. All you got to do is just look for it and read it or watch the video. Bioweapon and who released it is in question. We know who released it. China. We know who released it. And I promise you that there are people in the American government that are complicit. I promise you that. Watch the origins of the coronavirus. We need to reach inner city parents. Yes, we do. China is making huge progress in to quietly infiltrate and gain control of parts of the African continent. Yes, they are. That's illegal, of course. Yeah, it's illegal. And Trump is rebuilding our monetary system, reforming the Fed. Yes, with this, the Fed attempted a reset, digital currency. The first time in history the Fed has ever loaned money to the federal government. That's right, because the Fed is not federal, it is a private bank. Read The Creature from Jekyll Island and go back to 1910 and 1913 to get an understanding of our monetary system and why people get all bent out of shape about the budget. Trust me, if they didn't borrow to continue with all the spending that we do, our economy would have gone the way of the dodo a long time ago. So the continued borrowing, spending is necessary just to keep the economy going. But Trump has a plan to fix our monetary system. All right, so I'm gonna see if there are a few more questions and I'm gonna let it go. I didn't bring my makeup. I'm starting to sweat and I'm getting hot. So let's see, our inner city people are the victims suffering now. Derek is correct. Yeah, our inner city people have always been the ones suffering because they continue to do the same thing over and over again, looking for a different result. They continue to vote for Democrats. Listen, if somebody can tell you I support aborting a baby at the due date, or even after the child has breached the birth canal, what's wrong with you? The problem is certainly not me. Something is wrong with your party if you have been sold on that idea. Understand something. While there might be some things that are kosher, if you support a party that is wholesale corrupt, and I'm not just singling out the Democrats, I am singling out the Democrats for their stance on God and for their stance on the taking of human life. Something is wrong with that party. And I also call out the GOP because I promise you, I'm invited to a forum that's being held by blacks. I will be looking to see which one of my white Senate opponents are going to appear. I'm willing to bet that they won't. And I hope if they hear this, they will take it as a challenge and show up, because most of the times they don't. In 2014 and 2016, they did not. They care only about those that they know will believe them no matter what they say, and that is that they're a constitutional conservative when they are not. So I am going to close with that. My name is Derek Grayson. I am running for U.S. Senate for the great state of Georgia. Understand this. You may not be able to vote for me if you're in New Hampshire, if you're in Texas, if you're in Delaware or California, but you can donate to our campaign. You can volunteer to help make phone calls. Every Monday, I have a volunteer meeting. Come. Go to youtube.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, I don't know what's going on with Facebook, but you can follow me on my Senate page as Derek Grayson. My personal page is Derek E. Grayson. Facebook is allowing me to continue to receive friend requests when I'm already at the 5,000 mark. I don't know why they are doing that, but you know, people are just waiting in line. Nothing I can do about it, but you can still follow my feeds. Read what I post, watch the videos that I post. My website is Grayson4Georgia, FORGA.com. Go to the website. Donate, even if it's $1. If 20,000 people gave $1, and you know, on a daily basis, I am sure I have 10, 15,000 people touch stuff that I put out there. Donate, give. Let's make a difference. Let's get the word out. Let's let people know that it is time to stand up. If you're in the Republican Party, stop voting for these rhinos. Look up their constitutional voting record. Now, there is one out there, I think it's called the conservative something. It gives them all high ratings, but there are more than one. There's a New American. You can Google them and find out who they are. But when you have 3 out of 4 that tell you the truth, why would you believe the one that gives you a 90% constitutional voting record when 2 others gives you a 60 and a 40? Use your brain like I do. It's called critical thinking. When something doesn't smell right, it's not right. Let's do something different. Derek Grayson, I'm signing off. Thank you.